Well, good afternoon, everyone, and happy St. Patrick's Day. My name is Casey Meehan, and I'm the Director of Sustainability and Resilience at Western Technical College. And I also serve to develop some of the programming here at the Sustainability Institute. And welcome to today's Sustainability Chat featuring Dr. Aaron Maslowski from Gunderson Health Systems. The Sustainability Institute, if you're not familiar with us, we're a 501c3 organization located in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And our mission is to promote a positive vision of what a sustainable future looks like in the Driftless region and really celebrate those efforts that are already underway. Now, before we get going, just a couple of housekeeping bits here. Please keep your microphones muted. And your videos off as well. We will be monitoring the chat box. So if you've got a question or concern, please type it in the chat box. And if to get to that, you'll notice in your Zoom control panel, there's a little chat bubble. Just click on that and that'll access the chat box. Type any conversation or anything you want into that, and we will we'll be able to get that. One other thing is today's presentation will be recorded and available at probably in the next day or two on our website. So personal resilience in trying times, that's our theme today. Really trying to, what does it mean to build our own personal resilience and encourage our organizations and our employers to help us and help increase our well-being. Before we really dive into this topic though with Dr. Maslowski, we want to do a little bit of a poll here. So this is just so we can get a sense of where you're at, and Dr. Maslowski can also see sort of where you're coming from. So there's a 2-question poll. If you could just take a few seconds to answer that. So it looks like lots of folks think that doing things for your own well-being is not selfish. You disagree with that statement, that it is selfish, and that your employer is really doing at least somewhat of a decent job supporting your wellness. So that's great, and that's good information for us to have as we push forward here. It's just, the Sustainability Institute, we believe that sustainability is not just about hanging on or about doing things that are just less bad. Really, sustainability, it's actually about doing things differently so that we can create the conditions where all of us have the opportunity to thrive. And there's lots of things that are needed beyond what we sometimes traditionally think of sustainability, the environmental piece. Lots of things that are needed beyond just clean air and clean water if we're all going to thrive. We need access to basic services. We need decent jobs that pay a living wage. We need to be treated fairly. We need affirmation for who we are and how we choose to live. We need time to connect with other people and to pursue creative interests. We need a voice in the decisions that impact our daily lives. We need, and of course, we need physical and mental well-being. So our work and work in general guided towards this idea of sustainability as thriving is really guided by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals or global goals. It's a plan to address some of those, the world's most challenging problems by 2030. And one of those goals specifically is all about good health and well-being. So once this topic was sort of taboo, right? It was sort of taboo to discuss how we promote our own mental health and well-being. And now it's really getting much needed attention, especially since the pandemic. So that's really, really good news. How do we sustain ourselves during these trying times? And how can our workplaces better support their people to embody well-being, both physical and mental? Well, here to help us think through these questions is Dr. Aaron Maslowski. Dr. Maslowski has appointments in the departments of physical medicine and rehabilitation and sports medicine at Gunderson. She's also a certified physician development coach who contributes thought leadership on health and wellness issues across Gunderson clinics. So I am, and just on a personal note, Dr. Maslowski is a neighbor, and she's just awesome, a ray of sunshine in our neighborhood. So I am so happy that she decided to share her thinking and her knowledge with us today. So Dr. Maslowski, take it away.
Okay, well, thank you. Let me know if you can't hear or see what you're supposed to be hearing and seeing.
You're all good.
Thanks. And I want to say thank you to Casey and Carrie for having me here today. It's a real honor. And also I see so many familiar names on the screen, and that's really just wonderful to see that. And that's really no surprise because my husband Jake has really been encouraging people to show up. So thank you also to Jake for your ongoing love and support of my work. Okay, so today we're going to talk about wellness, and I want to thank you because today is a big day for basketball fans and Ireland fans. And so you could be doing other things. You could be watching the games. You could be out drinking green beer. So just thank you so much for showing up today. I really appreciate that too. So just in case this talk goes on too long and you don't watch it, I'm going to just give you the finer points. I do believe fully that individual resilience is a sustainability issue. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about how systems benefit when individuals thrive, and that resilience practices are totally achievable. This is something that I work through all the time with both the doctors I coach as well as my patients. So we'll give you a few ideas from that perspective as well. And again, just to cut to the chase, I think we all kind of know this, but I don't know that we embody it, that we can't help others very well if we don't take care of ourselves. You hear that every time you get on the plane, you know, put your own oxygen mask on first. But for some reason, I see this in my practice in all its capacities, people really struggle with that sometimes. So I absolutely think that is a necessary component to sustainability. So, you know, resilience is the capacity of a system to deal with change and to continue to develop. And that system could be the individual, it could be a community, it could be an organization. We have all dealt with a lot of change, and we need to not just exist in that change, but we need to actually continue to grow and develop with that change. Sustainability is different. It's the ability to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability to meet the needs of the future. So I think you can see that they're not the same, but they're certainly related. If we're resilient now, we better prepare for the future. We don't steal the resources of the future. We actually are more self-sufficient now so that we save those resources for the future. And Casey already talked about this. You know, I do think that wellness is a sustainable, it is a sustainable development goal according to the UN. And I think it's important to remember that this is not only in developing countries where obviously we want to prioritize good health and well-being in developing countries, but let's also remember that we need to do that for ourselves as well. So I noticed it was number 3 on this long list of very important topics after just no poverty and zero hunger. So really a high priority according to the UN. So I'm going to talk about this coming from a healthcare perspective because that's what I know best. But I think that this topic, I think a lot of you in education and other service-related fields are going to resonate with what we deal with in healthcare. I love this quote by Dostoevsky that says, "Pain and suffering are always inevitable for a large intelligence and a deep heart." You know, leave it to Russian authors to really kind of get to the core of things. And I think that that's true. You know, if you're going to go into healthcare or another education or a similar field, you have to be prepared for the pain and suffering that goes along with all that you've learned, and the large heart that brought you to that work. So, healthcare and burnout, those two have gone together forever. Of course, the hours are demanding. There's always more patients to see. Now we get to enjoy 2 hours of paperwork for every hour of patient care. Most of us didn't go into healthcare for paperwork. And when clinicians are burned out, they make more mistakes. They give up their jobs more readily. Patients die more often, which is a little scary. And even worse, over half of clinicians suffer from burnout, and that's 2 times greater than the average US worker. And of course, then you give us a pandemic and it got even worse. This also is from the UN website, just to demonstrate how short-staffed we are. In North America, there's only 150 nurses and midwives per 150 people. And of course, in Africa, it's only 10. So you can see, just to demonstrate the burden that we're dealing with. I like these cartoons from the New Yorker. The one on the left, I think these cartoons just really demonstrate that in addition to like how challenging the work is, just the challenges of our lifestyle. The one on the left shows a person who's kind of a puppet and the master is their phone. And all the things that our little peripheral brains remind us that we have to be attending to. Even just living with that feels like a burden sometimes. On the right, it says, instead of a weighted blanket, she sleeps under the suffocating weight of her responsibilities. So absolutely, we're professionals, but we're also parents and community members. And there's a lawn to take care of. She's sleeping under her lawnmower. So, it's complicated. So this slide, I guess what I'm trying to say with this, it estimates how much is lost when a physician leaves their job. And I think this is an important thing just to remind ourselves, regardless of what work you do, is that your employer would rather keep you than lose you to burnout. Before I got into physician coaching, what I'll talk about in a little bit, people would say to me, oh, kind of, and honestly, this was nobody's best day, but they would say things like, oh, they'll just use you up until you're used up and then you leave and whatever. And I just don't think Gunderson or any other employer feels that way. Just to look at the dollars and cents of it, when we lose a doctor, we lose anywhere from $150,000 to $1 million trying to replace that individual. So as a system, we absolutely try to support, retain, and keep our talented workforce. And I think that's true of any employer, that they are also invested in keeping their individuals sustained. So there's been a lot, this is a real hot topic in medicine. And one of the leaders in this field is named Tate Shanafelt. He used to be at Mayo, now he's at Stanford. And he really highlights how healthcare institutions have to recognize the effect of physician well-being on how that impacts the organization's health. And they need to invest in physician well-being. And I think that goes across the health professions as well, not just with doctors. And then in a systematic review, they pointed out that there's both things that individuals can do and organizations can do. And they created this model that is on your screen where it shows that, yes, the individual needs to work on their resilience, but then it's also about how we treat each other, the social supports, the training programs, and then up to the organization level, and then even to the national state level. And I just this week learned about how this works in real life from a national level. I just found out, this is just an example, that the board scores, the national standardized test that we take as medical students, it's called Step 1 USMLE. If anybody's a doctor, this just it still kind of gives me PTSD. It was a very important test. And basically it summarized who you were in 3 digits. The score just was everything. Well, now it's going to be pass fail, which is unreal, but it's really a systemic nationwide effort to bring humanity back into how we treat our medical students. And I think it's really interesting to see how that's going to play out. So national reform is possible with these issues. But I want to talk more about personal resilience because I think it starts there. And I think when we work on ourselves, it's a little easier then to start reforming our organization, our department, whatever our microcosm is, and then taking that out to communities, city, et cetera. So personal resilience is that inner well of resources that allows you to weather the difficulties and challenges you encounter without unnecessary mental, emotional, or personal distress. So in other words, you know, it's hard times will come. Does it need to take more than its fair share of your mental headspace, your emotions, how it makes you feel, how well you sleep? And so this is what we've been working on, working with doctors and their resilience. Their answer to a lot of things is, well, I just go on vacation, right? So in this New Yorker cartoon, it says they're on the beach, they have their drinks, and then one of them says, oh no, we're still us. So, you know, it just goes to show that wherever you take your issues, or wherever you go, you take your issues with you. And so we need to work on that. Another Russian author, and I should just add, I just love Russian literature. I don't put these in here because I want to take a political stand, other than just to point out our shared humanity with Russian authors. But, you know, Anton Chekhov said, if you want to work on your art, work on your life. And in medicine, a lot of us do think that medicine is an art. It's also a science. We say that all the time. And it just means that we do use our creativity. We try to be, to practice in it as an individual, and it's a balance. And if we really want to be the best at our art, we need to work on our life. And a lot of us put our life on the back burner. So here's how it all kind of has been, what's been going on at Gunderson to deal with all this. There was a wellness committee some time ago. It had both leadership as well as attending physicians on the group. And in 2017, they noticed that Gunderson clinician burnout was at about 25% rate. Now, I should say that is lower than the national average. And I think Gunderson consistently does better than the national average, but being a proactive group of people, they wanted to do something. And one of my colleagues, Sue McClellan, she's a pediatric cardiologist, she had an idea to start a coaching program at Gunderson. This is a pretty novel idea. At Mayo in Rochester, they do also endorse coaching, but they give people a stipend to go out and get their own coach. So having homegrown physicians, peer coaches, we coach each other, that is a really novel idea. And we trained 3 physician coaches back in the good old days where we traveled for trainings. We went to Seattle to be trained to do this. It took 6 months. We launched in 2019. Since then, we have coached for hundreds of hours. We've added physician's assistant and a nurse practitioner, so now there's 5 of us. And all of this, our ultimate goal, I think, is culture change, that we are working on individuals so that we, as individuals, we can work on our system. So our vision is to be a healthcare community, and again, this is the vision, I should say, of the coaching program, to be a healthcare community comprised of colleagues who are engaged fully in their professional and personal lives, such that they enrich the lives they touch to the fullest extent. And that is a piggyback on the vision of Gunderson to enrich every life. So here's some themes that came out of our hundreds of hours of coaching. People don't like the word resilience. They feel like it is the system passing responsibility off to individuals instead of becoming better systems. So we really try to acknowledge the inherent resilience that it takes to be a healthcare worker. We are already resilient, and that our work is hard. Many doctors and nurse practitioners, PAs, many in healthcare have loud inner critics that they try to deal with. Perfectionism and procrastination are issues, never feeling like there's enough time, not knowing where their career is headed, feeling that the career is not what they thought it would be, or that there's too much emphasis on the wrong things, too much emphasis on paperwork and billing, and not enough emphasis on getting people better. Interdepartmental dynamics, so not getting along with each other. And then I think a big one that's come up for me lately is boundaries, being able to say no to patients, being able to say no to leadership when it comes to doing extra tasks. So these are the things that people have told us about. I just got a nice note from a recipient of their coaching who said, you know, coaching really helped me to reconnect with my core values and purpose. What I found is that they never disappeared and they weren't damaged with my prior trauma. Rather, I feel strengthened and on the road to healing. So it's really nice to hear. I want to say about coaching real quick, if anybody is not aware of what coaching is, we're not mentors, we're not therapists. We try not to give advice. What we really do is it's more of a thought partnership, we call it. So it just means that people bring their stuff to us, whatever's on their mind, and we try to ask intentional, open-ended questions that help them sort out what is important and what their next action should be. So we always say the client comes as an expert in themselves, and we are an expert in coaching, and we come together to try to figure out, you know, what needs to happen next. And what seems the most effective about it is that it's a highly individualized process. In other words, there is no one size fits all bit of advice works for everybody, because everybody is kind of coming from a different place and dealing with different issues and so forth. So next I wanted to come, you know, again, if anybody's here is interested in working on their personal resilience, I wanted to just give some evidence-based things that you can do or incorporate. And I really try to keep it to things that are achievable and not very time consuming. Nobody has extra time these days. This is a cartoon. It says, steps 1 and 2 are a moisturizing facial cleanse. Steps 3 through 14 make me feel like I have some semblance of control in an increasingly chaotic world. So nobody needs a solution like that. We're gonna try to do things that should only take a few minutes and maybe make an impact on personal resilience. Leo Tolstoy said, true life is lived when tiny changes occur. So never underestimate the value of a tiny change. The first thing, mindfulness, gosh, everybody knows it's great, good for you. Nobody seems to have time for it. If you didn't know, mindfulness is paying attention with purpose and without judgment to the unfolding experience moment by moment. It's, I think, largely comes from a Buddhist tradition, although other spiritual traditions certainly have their own version of mindfulness and meditation. Jon Kabat-Zinn has written much about the benefits of it. That's probably where I would go to read more. There's a lot of evidence that it is highly beneficial in the structure of the brains of long-term meditators. And so you can really find a lot of good research to support that. But what about the rest of us who wander into meditation later in life? I mean, should we even bother? Well, this was in the last few years. A study showed that short-term, that even a brief intervention of meditation could be of benefit. These people received 10 hours of meditation training, which, and it wasn't all at once, it was like 30-minute sessions or whatever. And then they looked using functional MRI. And what they found was that actually there were gray matter changes, structural changes in the ventral posterior cingulate cortex, which is a hub associated with self-awareness, emotion, cognition, and aging. And boosting this area could protect against mood-related disorders and aging-related cognitive decline. So point there, it's not too late. It doesn't need to be huge lifelong journeys into meditation. Even this 10-hour intervention, they were already seeing structural changes in the brain, which is really exciting. The next thing is called the mini break or the micro break. So, this is something that it's just always kind of surprising to me how people just don't want to take a little break. And when I'm talking a little break, I'm talking, when in the research of micro breaks, they were looking at a few seconds to a few minutes. I have friends that won't even walk to get a coffee with me, and that I have timed it for me to walk across the crosswalk to get a coffee. It's 4 minutes each way. They cannot take a little break. But these little micro breaks of seconds to minutes actually have been shown to be really beneficial. There was a study in 2018 of telemarketers in South Korea. So telemarketing considered to be a pretty onerous chore, you're calling people and et cetera. And they were able to induce increased productivity and positive feelings with these micro breaks of seconds to minutes. And I think that what was really interesting about this study was that the beneficial activities were chatting to colleagues, browsing the internet, or relaxing. But getting a snack, which is kind of my favorite go-to break, did not show benefit. So not necessarily a snack break, but going to talk to a friend or even just looking at funny videos, that's been studied, funny videos on the internet actually can rejuvenate. This will probably be popular with this crowd, but my next tip is, urban green spaces. The World Health Organization has written a lot about this. I'm just going to take a quick drink. Hold on. And so getting out, seeing natural scenery in and of itself has some powerful wellness effects. One of my, so there's two theories as to why this should be. One is the psychophysiological stress reduction theory, that looking at natural settings, just looking at them, can shift us into a more positive state. And it's probably because it stimulates our parasympathetic system. So the sympathetic is the flight or fright, parasympathetic is rest and digest. It's kind of where you want to be most of the time. So just looking at green stuff can make you feel more relaxed. There's another theory, it's called the attention restoration theory, which just kind of says we only have so much attention for things that are cognitively demanding. Maybe like me giving this talk, cognitively demanding. I only have so much attention for it. But involuntary attention like that you get outdoors, that's limitless and rejuvenates your ability to focus on direct attention. So that's the attention restoration theory, that it kind of gives it back. So viewing or being in green space can reduce your blood pressure, your heart rate, reduce muscle tension, and being in the woods lowers your stress hormone, cortisol, stimulates, again, that parasympathetic nervous system. So just, loads of health benefits just by looking at green spaces. Two little facts that I really like that kind of remind me to try to get outside in the morning is that there was a study that showed that when this is going to seem off topic, but I'll kind of pull it in, that if we scan our eyes back and forth like this, left to right, that actually inhibits the fear centers in our brain, one of the hubs being the amygdala. And the way they did this is they actually had the person in the MRI scanner and stimulated them to look side to side. And that is the basis of a fairly common therapeutic tool called EMDR. Well, when do you do that in real life? You do that in real life when you're walking. So it has to be a walk. It has to be forward ambulation, and your eyes will naturally do this. And actually, if you do it at the right time of day, it also helps you, meaning that the sun has to be somewhat low in the sky, signaling that it's morning. It can help also regulate your circadian rhythm. So many benefits to a morning walk. Because of and around here, ample green space, you could really extinguish fear and get all kinds of parasympathetic activity just by a brief walk. How long should that walk be? What if you don't have an hour to go for a walk? It's something I really want to drive home, so you don't need an hour. One study found that just a 12-minute walk can increase vigor, attentiveness, self-confidence compared to the same amount of time spent sitting. And walking in nature specifically reduces ruminating over negative experiences, which can increase your risk of depression. So this is a picture that I took one morning in the marsh. I would like to take these pictures of these amazing sunrises that we get. And this quote from Albert Einstein, look deep into nature and you will understand everything better. So it's right outside your door, go get it. Real quick, two more that I love to recommend is gratitude. Lots and lots of research on gratitude. There was one study where they took some college kids that were seeking behavioral health services. A third of them got just did the behavioral health services. A third of them wrote one letter a week of gratitude to someone. That's all they did. And the third group wrote about all their deep, dark feelings. And what they found was that the gratitude group had benefit than overall the other two groups. And that was significantly better at 4 weeks and 12 weeks after writing the letter. So you could write a letter and get benefit from that weeks to months later, which again, what's your investment of time there? The last one I want to mention is self-compassion. If you want to know more about self-compassion, the person who made this a big deal is Kristin Neff. And it just has to do with treating yourself with the same kind of kindness, care, and compassion as you would treat those you care about, your loved ones. And she talks about this exercise where you can actually release oxytocin, which is a hormone that's associated with mothering and hugging someone you love. You can do that for yourself just by giving yourself a hug. It sounds kind of crazy. And she even talks about, like, you know, you might might worry about how that looks. You can just kind of even just give yourself a little squeeze in a subtle way, and you will get that hormonal boost. I have a picture here of me doing that with my dog. This is how I like to get a little oxytocin bump, is by cuddling with our sweet poodle, and he's good for that. And I feel it when I do this. I can feel the good chemicals. So, you know, if you're interested in wellness stuff, personal resilience, there's a couple resources. I love Berkeley's Greater Good website. I mean, what's so cool about that website is not only do they have actionable exercises that you can do, but they also are take you directly to the links of the studies that proved that they would work. So I kind of like that. The 10% Happier book and podcast are really good. Again, the idea being small changes that you can do. This was a journalist who had some pretty significant problems that really turned his career and his life around by just meditation, a pretty modest meditation practice. The Headspace app gets a lot of people started on meditation. That one has a free section, and then you can unlock a lot more if you pay for it. And then one of my favorites is Tara Brach. She's a psychotherapist and a Buddhist, and she's just unlimited lectures and meditations, all available for free through podcasts. From a systemic perspective, I didn't talk as much about that, but three of my favorite books that have really changed the way I think about culture change in systems and organizations. One book would be Community by Peter Black, On Everyone Culture by Keegan and Leahy from Harvard, and also Teaming by Amy Edmondson, also from Harvard. She really, both Keegan Leahy and Edmondson talk a lot about psychological safety. And I think that is a huge issue with system change. So in other words, if we all work on ourselves, if we all get the personal resilience and then get really honest with each other about what we need and what it takes for us to stay in the game and be resilient, the more we can make it psychologically safe for others to do their work, and then we all benefit. So those are two great books about that issue. And this is my last slide. It says, I hope your decisions in life aren't as ill-conceived as your March Madness bracket. So that's it.
Great. Erin, thank you. Thank you. And we've got a couple of questions here coming through.
Great.
One of them is from Jason Gilman, and he writes, every decision a city makes can be linked to social or personal resiliency and sustainability metrics. However, cities often struggle with qualitative and quantitative social metrics. Does the medical community have tools or guidance to help cities on how to measure the impact of their policies and investments?
Yes, I would say definitely. We have actually public health initiatives it's not really my area of expertise, but I definitely, Jason, I could just walk over to your house and tell you the people to ask about this, because I guess I'm not an expert in it. However, I think this question is really highlighting something that we all need to think about, is we should be talking, you know, like if we should be having this conversation. The city should definitely be knowing who at Gunderson is interested in public health initiatives and how we measure it. So I'll come over and I'll give you some names. How about that?
And Erin, that sort of brings up another question that I had, especially that I had that came up sort of near the end. You were talking about systems change. What would you say we need to do to change the culture, right? From feeling like puppets to our phone to just being more, I love the phrase that you said, bringing humanity back, right? Or just bring humanity back to being us. What's how do we change that culture?
Well, you know, that's a great question. I guess something that I think about a lot, again, talking to patients, talking to these coaching clients, is that we all would like to control our have a lot of control issues. We'd like to control our environments. We'd like to control our family members, et cetera. But the only person you can really control is yourself. So if you want to be the human being at the table who does not pull out their phone because they're not talking to somebody, and then you just need to be that person and maybe talk about how you're trying to do that intentionally and start a conversation around that. And if you tell two people that and it resonates with them, then you know what I mean? I think culture change starts with the individual. And it's not that we get preachy about it, but we also kind of share what we learned about it and the benefits of it. I was just just anecdotally, this weekend, I was at, speaking of just being a slave to the phone, I was at a table at a fundraiser, and there was a foreign exchange student from Czechoslovakia at the table. And I noticed his 17-year-old kid, he's talking to no one. He doesn't know anybody. He doesn't know what we're talking about. And he did not pull out his phone. And I couldn't believe it, because if I were at a table of 8 people talking, in a foreign language, my second language, and, about things that I didn't know, and they're all at least 30 years older than me, I would 100% be on my phone. And so I complimented the kid about, about making that choice. And he influenced me that night, So I think we make intentional choices for ourselves, and then we try to just, walk the talk and notice the benefits of it. Mm-hmm.
Where do you go to get, this is from Rachel, where do you go to get training for peer coaching and bringing it back to our own organizations and groups?
Great question. I saw Rachel Frazee on the call. I don't know if that's, hi, Rachel. Same Rachel or different Rachel. So coaching is a really interesting kind of cross-organizational, cross-discipline thing. And it started, I suppose, in the business world. Actually, I heard on a podcast somewhere that it was, kind of psychotherapists finding a new way to help organizations is kind of where it came out of. There's a million coach training programs, and a lot of them will have online offerings. And a lot of times, like the first coach training I did, where they really teach you quite a bit, was a weekend training. And I did that through the Coaching Training Institute, CTI. I think CTI is a really well-known, well-regarded coach training program. They definitely have a kind of a corporate, it's meant to be for organizational development, for businesses, but there's also kind of a psychosocial, spiritual aspect to it as well. And I think, there were definitely people there representing large organizations. But at the same time, there were also people that were just there because they wanted to learn how to talk to their kids in a more effective way. So that's a really good coach training program. It is a little bit of it's an investment. If you want, it is an investment. Let's just put it that way. You can read books on coaching too. So it just depends on, do you want to market the skill, because people do pay coaches to work with them individually. Or like I said, Gunderson made the leap to train their own coaches. But I would look at some of the training programs. And then there's an accreditation and national federation and all that stuff too.
Actually, speaking of what Gunderson has done for this, how do we, as people working in other organizations, how do we get leaders to buy into this? What did you do? What did you do to get the leadership?
I honestly do not know. You should have gotten Dr. McClellan to come on this talk, because I don't know how she did it. I mean, it kind of blows my mind that they paid for us to take the time to do this training. They're paying for us to coach each other. I think you just have to believe in what you're doing and know that it could help. I think she was aware of coaching. I think, again, I don't want to speak too much to her experience because I don't know all the details, but I think at her church, maybe they had utilized some coaching and just really believed in its benefits. And then I think Gunderson has always been really proactive about, let's do the right thing for the right reasons. And so they made a business plan, and then they, that a lot of times people want to make changes at the organization. They forget that they need to write a business plan. So that was something operationally she's very good at.
So another question has come in here. Do you have a sense of what Wisconsin or La Crosse area schools are or are not doing to foster resilience in young people? I'm very concerned about, after reading the Surgeon General's recent advisory on youth mental health.
I can can only give you my personal opinion because I don't really have, I'm not privy to like their inside conversations. I do know the teachers are really worried about this because I have kids in the La Crosse public schools. I've always been impressed with our teachers. I mean, they are really wonderful. I do think that they are keeping it together right now, that the challenges that they have are huge. I think they just could use some more help, honestly. And so I think it is really hard when you're trying to get those basic standards met to then also speak to those needs. But I will, just to give a little plug to our own personal experience, both my kids go to Lincoln Middle School. They're a part of a YWCA program called Circle Keepers, where over the summer, they get trained to, just some really cool skills about listening and supporting, peer support. And then the students provide that for each other. They'll call a circle, and then these kids leave their classrooms to go support one of their peers. There's just always really great things going on. I think when they go on, it's because some teacher or some professional has selflessly given their time to make that work on top of their already pretty big course load. But I can't speak to specifically what initiatives they have, but
it looks like somebody,
a beautiful match.
It looks like Anna dropped a resource into the chat as well, as far as what La Crosse School District might be up to. So if you're interested, please check out that link. And Aaron, I'm going to end your screen share here in just a sec. There we go. So Aaron, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and sharing the story. It's been, I think that mental health right now and just well-being in general has been so stretched over the last 2 years that this is something I think we all need to be paying much more attention to. Just again, for sustainability, because this is part of sustainability, like you said. If we can't sustain ourselves, then what's it all for, right? So again, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. We really do appreciate it. And everyone, thank you so much for joining our conversation today. I want to thank in particular everyone who supported the Sustainability Institute through membership, and especially our promoter, champion, and advocate members, Wade Hackbarth, Glenn Jenkins, Jacob Siamas, Raj Schnick, Dorothy Leonard, and especially Lynn and Todd Huffman and Lee Rosh. None of this free programming would happen without our members and our supporters. So if you're interested in becoming a member of the Sustainability Institute, it's really simple. Just go to sustaininstitute.com and you will see a become a member button on the top of the page. Click that, and you can donate at a level that you feel comfortable with, or you can become a member at a level you feel comfortable with, or if you just want to donate, there's a button for that as well. So I would please, if you like what we're doing, please do become a member. And we do have some exciting things coming up programming wise that I want to announce. So last year we did what was called the Green Goose Chase, a virtual goose chase, which was a virtual scavenger hunt that was done in conjunction with the Earth Fair last year. We are running that same type of event again this year. We had a great turnout for it last year. We're hoping to get even more people interested this year. Runs from April 18th through the 24th, but registration is open right now. Again, this is a team mission-based scavenger hunt that you play for free on the Goose Chase app, which you can download onto your smart device. I want to show you just a quick video to show you what this is actually all about.
Get ready for the 2022 Green Goose Chase, a mission-based scavenger hunt happening April 18th through the 24th, brought to you by the Sustainability Institute. The missions in the game relate to a good life goal and have teams experiencing sustainability through interactive activities and friendly competition. Teams can join today for free by downloading the Green Goose Chase app on your smart device. Join the game by searching the game code shown on your screen. Once you've joined the game, create your team. Teams can be made up of a group of friends, family members, a gaggle of coworkers, or you can play solo. Once you have created your team, you can use your unique access code to invite others to join your team. But don't be too slow. Make sure your team is ready because missions launch on April 18th. Wondering how to play? Teams will be texting in answers, snapping pictures or videos, or submitting GPS location tags to complete missions. Missions might have you finding hidden geese, searching for facts, or taking on a challenge. All submissions from teams populate on the game dashboard, so you can see what other teams are doing and cheer them on. Once you complete a mission, your team accrues points, and you can see where your team lands on the leaderboard. If your team accrues enough points, you'll be entered into some great prize drawings at our team celebration event. New to 2022, we have introduced exclusive mini missions that will launch only during the Earth Fair. Teams complete these special mini missions and submit the word clue to be entered into a separate drawing, all happening on April 24th during the Earth Fair. You won't want to miss it. So stretch your wings and gather your goslings. It's time to get your ducks in a row and be ready for the Green Goose Chase.
So again, it was a blast last year. It's a bit silly, it's a bit playful, and it really does celebrate some of the cool sustainability initiatives that we have going on here. So please do join us for the Green Goose Chase this spring. So thank you for attending today. If you liked this event, again, please consider becoming a member, and you'll see a poll pop up on your screen. This just gives us a little bit of feedback at the Sustainability Institute regarding our programming. So if you could take just a few seconds to answer the 2 or 3 questions that we have. And remember that this particular sustainability chat is available, or will be available, on our website, sustaininstitute.com/spotlight. It'll pop up in our Spotlight blog sometime in the next day or two. So if you liked what you saw, you can always go back and review the content and then some of the links that were sent with it, or that were presented in it. And finally, I hope that you join us for our next sustainability chat. That's April 20th at 2 p.m., where we will be talking with Xcel Energy, looking at their carbon-free vision, which is actually a pretty progressive vision for, it's one of the first utilities in the nation to pledge to be entirely renewable. So we're going to be talking with Xcel Energy about their carbon-free vision and how you can also participate in what's called their Renewable Connect program. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Good luck with your brackets for those of you that are playing the NCAA March Madness, and we'll see you next month.